Okay guys, good morning. Well, I'm working on Sheldon lathes and lathe tool holders today. Mainly this is going to be about the Sheldon lathe. What I did was I ran bluing tanks this morning, so I've got everything back out of the bluing tanks. I've got them sitting down here on the bench right here. They're just freshly oiled and everything out of the bluing tanks, probably an hour ago, and then I've oiled them down and took time to have me a little snack. So what I'm going to do mainly today, or what I'm going to show today, is I'm just going to take these lathe parts. These are all tool holder parts down here. These are the tool holders that I built years and years ago, and then I modified them. I put inserts in the dovetails to take up the extra space, and so they fit an AXA tool holder. So these are all the parts from that. I cleaned them up, ran them through the bluing tanks, and after I get the Sheldon stuff put together, well, I'm going to spend the rest of the day just cleaning these up and putting them back together and assembling them. Probably won't show that, but I'll show finished product later on. Anyway, these are the main parts for the Sheldon that I got blued up today. And this has been a holdup on getting stuff done on the Sheldon to a certain degree, because there's things on the gearbox that I did want to get blued up before I actually reassembled it. So I think tomorrow's going to be a day to clean up the gearbox, get it final assembled. Hopefully, we'll see how the day goes today. But anyway, this is my collar that we had before. This is the knob on the end of the gearing under the cover, the nuts and bolts for it. There's the screw that goes on top of the oil plate on top of the gearbox. This is a knob on the gearbox selector that I said I was going to blue. And then just various things, mounting bolt for the gearbox. This is the knob for the gear selector, or for the selector lever on the bottom of the gearbox. Collars, and these are the collars here for the, one of them is for the, let's see, this one will be for the guard on the end, and this one will be for the back gear selector that locks it in place. So anyway, I'm going to clean these up. We'll move them over on the edge of the lathe where we can see them a little bit better, and then we'll start cleaning these up and putting them together. Alright, let's just start wiping some of these down. Now this is going to be a spacer that goes on the end of the gearbox. This is just the spacer that sticks out on the lead screw end. We're just going to set it back out of the way for now. And this is the nut that goes with that to hold it in place. Part of the stuff we'll assemble today, part of it we won't be able to, but now this, let's see. Now we've already confused ourselves a little bit. Let me look and see if I can tell. These two are exactly the same, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. And they both do look to be exactly the same, so we'll just treat them as if they are. But these are the knobs that go on the guards, and when they're blued up they look like that right there. Now when you run things through bluing tanks, the way bluing salts work is fresh salts will give you a really nice clean setup. The more you operate the tanks, the better they work, the longer they'll last. In an ideal situation, a set of bluing salts would run 24 hours a day and they would last, I don't know exactly how long, but a long, long time. It would be an exceptionally good setup. When you get an operation like mine, when I was running the shop full time, I ran salts probably once a month at least, and quite a bit longer. So after about a year, I'd replace my salts. Since I'm not running them nearly that often and not commercially now, why the salts act a little bit differently. When you pull them out, when you look at the paper towels that I'm wiping this stuff down with, they've got a brown smut on them, and that's drag out from the bluing tanks. This is one of the screws that holds the gearbox in place that I'd set up for on the gearbox and turned down the shoulder, so we've re-blued it. So the longer they sit without being used, you get a drag out of the tanks, and it's that brown smut. And it's a combination of things. It's the moisture that it absorbs, it's the quality of the water that you're using. The water that I've got here is a hard water anyway, and as you add more water to bring the salts back up to the proper ratio between salts and water to get the proper boil at temperature, why, you contaminate those salts. So these actually have quite a bit less drag out than I expected to see on them. I haven't run these salts for probably 2 months, and the tank itself has got quite a bit of brown smut in it. This is the knob that goes on the top of the gear selector here. I said I was going to blue it up, but they'll get that drag out, and it doesn't matter what you're bluing, it'll give you that drag out when they reach this point of contamination, we'll call it. It doesn't affect the bluing at all. It does give you a drag out, and it will, the first few times you oil them up and wipe them down and everything, you'll continue to get that brown drag out. It doesn't affect the salts at all or the finish at all. It cleans right off, and will give a real nice blue. Now, different materials will give a different finish. Like this nut that's on here, who knows what it was actually made out of when it was built and everything. It's a little more brown tint, and you can adjust that, and that's just how well the bluing salts have taken on that particular piece. Some parts will, and I won't get into the hows and whys of that, but different alloys and different hardnesses will give you different tones on the finish. But for the most part, I know my salts pretty well. I can get a real nice blue finish. This is the knurled knob that goes on the end of the gearing down there, along with this washer and this nut. So we'll put those on in just a minute. Now, like this material here that I turned the nut for the end of the spindle out of, it's got a really nice finish on it, and all of these parts do. I'm not unhappy with any of these, but that's what we get for bluing salts. So we end up with dirty paper towels, dirty rags, whatever you're using. I use paper towels for these because it's just easy to clean them out and get them to work well and do what they're supposed to do. Now, I have pieces and parts that go together. This was evidently a stainless plunger on there, and this is our knurled knob. Now, I should have a nut for that. Let's see here, what are we doing? Well, now wait a minute here. This is going to go. This is going to go here. This is going to go there. So we should have a. Okay, that one should go there. And it should have. Okay, so that'll be the setup for. Okay, this one goes on the guard right here, and I'm going to go ahead and install these. I realize it's off camera, but I don't want to lose track of what goes where here. Now, this is for the back gear. And I was really careful when I took this all apart for the back gears, so that it would have position, because they're kind of a pain in the rear to get aligned properly. And as soon as I pulled it off, why, it wanted to fall out of position. So I'll have to go back and readjust the engagements for back gears again. That one sets right in place just like that. That one will go there. And then we have this lock nut that goes in here. So that's the way those go back together. Now on this piece, we've got our detent ball on the bottom, we've got our spring on top, and then it accepts this screw, and that's how we adjust our tension. And they look nicer when they're blued up like that. Now the detent ball is going to want to come out of there now as I get that started in there, so we'll see if we can't keep from losing that. This pin will go here one way or the other when we final assemble it. And then I suspect one of those goes there, and where the other one goes, I'm not sure yet. So anyway, in here, this knob is going to thread in here like that. I'm going to have to go over to the vise to hold that, to thread it in, but I will go ahead and clean it up. I'm going to Loctite this with thread locker. Because I'm going to consider this permanent. Now at some point I may want to go back and plate all these, or have them plated, which means I'll have to disassemble it, which may be a real interesting venture. I'm going to take this over the vise real quick. Alright, and that's the way they look once they are cleaned up. Put a little more oil back on there, but yeah, that makes it look quite a bit nicer. So that's that sub-assembly done. And the other one is going to be this one here. Now I will tell anybody, anytime you're going to do this, if you are going to rework especially a gearbox on something like this, be sure and either shoot video of it or take a whole lot of pictures, because I've got another Sheldon to compare it to, which without disassembling it you can't see a tremendous amount, but you do have some idea of what's going on. And fortunately I shot video of this too, because had I not done that, I would really be having a hard time with this. Now I have gone back and reviewed my video 3 times. I'm going to go back and look at it again, and then hopefully I will have it pretty well figured out, because it is quite the endeavor. Let me take this back off of here and look at this, to get this realigned. So I would really be having issues probably if I didn't have video of all of it. So just a little bit of a warning there. Okay, this will only go on so far, it appears. And it's nice to have something to compare to, because that does bottom all the way down into a shoulder. So that's going to look like that. And then we have this collar, and it's going to have a brass pad in the bottom, followed by a set screw. And opposite that's going to be another brass pad. With the other set screw. Okay. All right, so here's our knob on this end of the... Those really look cool when they're installed on that blue. Okay, so let's get this cover off of here and out of the way for a moment. And the first thing we got is on the end of this gear here, we have this fancy little knob. And it's going to go on there like that, with a washer like that. And the nut. And that'll be that. Now our nut for on the end. And that will set our end play. And I think that's about where it needs to go. We'll check it later on and readjust it if we need to. Okay, that should be engaged fully in back gear. So I have to get my knobs through there. I need 2 knobs. One for down on the underdrive and one for up here. Feels about right, but we do want to go in farther on that. Okay, that should be about right. Okay, so these parts both all go on the gearbox. We've got this little screw that goes on the top of the gearbox right there. Nice little contrast between those screws. There's our shift lever. And then this is our little top ABC selector on top. So that's pretty much all we can do for this until I finish the bushings and reassemble the gearbox. Let me get the covers back on here again. That will sit there. I do have to build me a couple of studs to go in here in the corners. That will sit on there. I do still have to make up my pattern for here. So that's going to be about it for today, I think. We'll go ahead and I'll get these pieces arranged a little bit and start machining the bushings for the gearbox. I've got 3 of those left to do. Once I get those done, we'll reassemble the gearbox and see if we can't get it mounted. Hopefully that'll happen maybe tomorrow or Tuesday. So anyway, hope you find that a little bit useful. Comment, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.